Hey, everybody. This is Steve Borey from the Jackpot Gents. Normally, I'm here with my son, Matt, who's the other half of the Jackpot Gents, but he's out of town today. So I'm doing an interview with Josh O'Connell from Know Your Slots. Hi,
Hey,
Josh. How
Steve.
you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Today, we were going to talk about 9 tips to lose less on slot machines. A lot of times we talk about ways to win on slot machines, but realistically speaking, in the long run, you're going to lose money on a slot machine. So we're going to turn it around a bit, and rather than give tips on ways to win, we're going to say how to lose less. So you came up with a list of 9. So let's go start with number 1.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing to start with is around limits. So I use this term in a variety of ways, but if you go into the casino knowing you have certain limits, then you will hopefully be able to keep within them. So for an example is time limits. So if you're going to go to the casino with an open-ended time limit, you might get sucked in and play and lose track of time. And then, more wagers, more chances for the house to win on those wagers. And so I usually end up going to the casino with like, say, a 3 to 4 hour time limit. And that's usually good enough for the casino to be happy with your play, but at the same time, not so overwhelmingly long that you're giving yourself sort of too much of a chance to spend everything that you bring with you. And that leads to the second limit, which is a budget limit. So
Oh,
if you're going to go, sorry.
Sorry, let me ask you one thing here, because
Yeah, yeah.
when you say set time limits, I think notoriously people have heard the stories that casinos don't have clocks. Now, what is your thought on that? Because, well, it's pretty much true. Maybe some nowadays are starting to put in clocks, but traditionally casinos never had clocks in there. So when you went in, you sort of lost track of time.
That's right. Yeah. So I clearly there are certain things that are done to keep you immersed in the atmosphere. I do think the lack of a clock is definitely one of those things. Although, with sports books and other things going on, if you see like, the 7 p.m. game on, you get visual clues now in ways
Mhm.
that you didn't before either. But, I think with time limits, you can, everybody usually carries a smartphone now. Many people have fitness devices that, alarms can go off. So just set an alarm on your phone, right? You don't have
Mhm.
to necessarily rely on the casino to tap you on the shoulder. That said, there are casinos that are starting to roll out things called Game Sense. And some of the things that Game Sense can do is help you with some of your limits and put alerts on the screen. And so I haven't looked into see if time limit's one of them yet, but I recall seeing that as one of the things that they talk about. So, there may be tools that are actually being rolled out that are more player friendly in that regard. But if you want to just be reliant on yourself and not someone else, that phone alarm is a great little trick you can
Mhm.
do.
Good idea.
And so moving on then to budget limits. So similarly, just as you're going to set a time limit, you also should set a budget limit. So what that hopefully encourages is to not have a mid casino ATM run or something like that. I usually go in with what I plan on playing for the session. So if I'm going to go up to the casino with $500, I've pulled that money out in advance. Now there's practical reasons for doing that, like not paying the casino's ATM fee, but there's also benefits where, that that's the money for your trip. And so it's easier to kind of keep track of how you're doing and understand sort of like, are you happy with the session so far? And I think that that's an easy way to also, encourage you to sort of think about where you are, in terms of your spend, and maybe slow down your play. And some of these other tips we'll talk about will give you ideas on how to do that. If it's not going well, or if it is going well, maybe there's things, you can do to bring home some money, which we'll also talk about, right? So the budget limit, I think, sort of sets the tone for all of those things. So knowing how much your budget is for a casino trip is really helpful. I think what's not the best idea is to go in with an open-ended budget, go to the ATM, things like that, where you start to lose track of how much you're actually spending, because it then becomes very easy to lose more than you realized you did.
Mhm. Okay.
And then one more limit that I think is also helpful is machine-based limits. So now getting a little more granular, when you sit down at a slot machine, how much are you going to play on that slot machine? Are you going to put $20 in? Are you going to put $50 in? But setting that target helps you make insert decision points into your play. Okay, I've lost that $20. Do I want to move on? Do I want to put another $20 in? And having decision points encourages you to think a little bit about the situation. It avoids going on tilt. We'll talk about some other tricks to avoid issues where you can just keep playing and playing and burn through your cash too fast. But one of those things is setting a limit when you first sit down a machine. What's my goal? What if maybe I walk away if I double, right? So maybe you set a goal, or maybe I walk away if I get a bonus. Having these targets sort of encourage you to be able to sort of say, okay, I've done what I wanted to do here. Let's move on to the next game. And it encourages you, again, just think about your play as you go.
Hmm. Now, when Matt and I play, sometimes as we're playing, we will set limits, loss limits, or actually win limits. But usually, what happens is, okay, we've won $200. We get down to 150, we'll cash out, or we'll cash out at 300. You
Yeah.
know, so you can stay in that range and know you're being responsible, and you're not going to lose it all back. You're definitely going to leave it as a winner. So we think that's a good way to do that also. So that's something that we do. So
Yeah, well,
sure.
actually, and sometimes, like, let's say I put $20 in the machine. Let's say I got to get a really good bonus to get up to 60. What I might say to myself is, well, I was going to give myself $20, so I'll take 20 off the 60, and if I hit 40, I'll stop, because that's the $20 I planned on spending on this machine, right? So you can do these you can kind of reset your expectations if you're going really well, while
Mhm.
obviously protecting yourself if it wasn't a good session on that machine. So I think that can help as well.
Yeah, it's great when you start to win. You say, okay, well, I was going to cash out at 100, but I'm winning 150 now, so I'm gonna change my my top. If I get to 200, I'll cash out. So that can happen too. So it can reverse, rather than going down, you're going up, and you might get lucky and win more. Okay, what do you got for number 2?
So game choice is number 2. When you're playing in a casino, there are different types of games. No, they're not one size fits all. And so some of the things that can influence the game and how it plays and pays can also influence how successful you can be on a game. So examples would be, if it's got a wide area progressive, one of those 6 or 7 figure jackpots that are spread across casinos, part of the money that the machines are expected to pay out over time are in that jackpot. If you don't win that jackpot, the rest of the game is paying you less while you're not winning that jackpot. And so your money can go much quicker on, like, a mega bucks, for instance, is a great example of that. But there are, obviously other smaller examples throughout the casino floor: the Wizard of Oz machines, the Wheel of Fortune machines with the big progressives. There's plenty of those examples on the casino floor. Whereas you can pick a game that has none of that, and all of the money is invested into the payout of that particular machine at that particular time. There's even games like Twin Win where there's not even a bonus; it's all in the line pay. So you get these bigger line hits because there's no bonuses to put the money into. And so lower volatility games is another example of this. Games that'll pay more frequently but smaller amounts. We've talked about this on previous videos on the channel, especially some of the lower limit game recommendations that we gave. Those a lot of times are lower volatility games, so they're designed to sort of keep your money running longer. So instead of you're not swinging for the fence for like a big jackpot and having a lot of dead spins in between. You're playing for smaller wins, but they kind of keep you pretty even overall. So that can help you because you're playing a game that's not designed to lose money as fast unless you get the big win, right?
Hmm.
So that's another opportunity to slow down your losses.
Now, we were talking there about wide area progressives, and megabucks a good example, because we would put statistics in our book each year when we were doing the American Casino Guide. We still have them on our website, AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com, slot machine statistics. And megabucks has one of the lowest payback percentages of any machine. And it's a dollar machine usually. So we tell people, if you want to play a machine like that, well, there's 2 things. Number one, if you want to play a machine like that, don't put all your money into that machine. Set aside maybe, 10, 15, tops 20%, and take a shot at that, trying to win one of those big progressive jackpots. But the other thing is, if you're going to play a machine like that, you have to bet maximum coin. Otherwise, you would not be eligible to win the progressive jackpot, and you're just building it up for someone else.
So one note there, that is changing.
Is
There
it?
are megabucks machines that have a more than a $3 bet. So $3 is still the bet, like the magic bet to activate the megabucks, but there could be like a $5 bet that activates like another feature on the game. Now, we also recommend betting to ensure you get all the features, all of the different things that are on the game. So in that case, I would still recommend a max bet. But like some of the wide area progressives, especially some of the newer like games like Monopoly Money Grab is an example where you don't have to bet max to qualify for the wide area progressive. So you just look at the bet panel and it shows you which ones are active. I think it was like a $3.75 bet, a $6 bet. Well, if you can bet $3.75 and qualify for the wide area progressive, that's great. You don't have to necessarily max bet on that. So it helps to look at the machine because it will explain to you what you have to bet. Most of the time it's max bet, but there are now examples where, because the bets continue to creep up, you don't necessarily have to max bet to qualify for those progressives anymore.
Okay, that's good information. What is tip number 3 for losing less on slot machines?
So tip number 3 goes back to sort of the limits I was talking about earlier, but it's more concrete, specific tip, which is bring only cash to the casino. So I know players who don't trust themselves with an ATM card in the casino or a credit card in the casino. They leave them like locked up or at home or whatever the case may be, and they only bring their cash with them. And I think that's a really good tip, especially if you're really trying to make sure you're staying within a budget and you're not trying to overspend, and you're trying to make sure that you're spending your entertainment budget and not your home budget and that kind of thing, right? So as I said, I pull out my cash up front. Many times it helps me keep track of where I am and how much I have left and so forth. Sometimes, again, it avoids the ATM fees because my bank's a smaller bank and isn't everywhere, and so those can add up, especially in a casino where they love to charge $6, $8, $10 for an ATM withdrawal. But ultimately, bringing cash really sort of sets the box in which you can play. And so I do recommend that as a way to sort of manage your money, because the money's there, it's in your hand, you know exactly what you brought, and you know what you have at any given time. And so it helps you visually understand where things are so you can manage your losses or your wins.
Okay. Now, I was in the casino, but I think it depends on the personality of the gambler, the player. Because I was in a casino the other day, I saw this lady 3 times get up, go to the ATM and make a withdrawal. I'm saying, well, now there's a lady who should not bring her ATM card into the casino. But I think for most people, they can control themselves. They're not going to keep going. But there are certain people who should definitely avoid bringing their ATM card to the casino. All right, let's move on to number 4, please.
So this is one of those ones I was talking about where you have more decision-making scenarios, and that's to break up bigger bills and tickets into smaller bills. And I've seen this in action with certain players, and I was kind of intrigued by it and realized what they were doing and thought it was really savvy. So some players, once they put the ticket in, the ticket's practically spent, right? Like they're just going to play through that ticket, and unless they really win big. And so if you put a $300 ticket in the machine versus a $100 bill or a $20 bill, it forces that $0 balance to pop up sooner if you're losing, and encourages you to have to make a decision. Am I going to put more money into this machine or not? And so what I've seen some players do is, they got a ticket up to $300. So go to the bill breaker, break it down into more 20s, and they'll continue to use 20s in the machine because it just allows them to have more control over how much is being spent at a given time. It keeps them focused on the balance a little bit more, as opposed to, I got plenty of money in there, what does it matter? And then, hey, I just lost $200 doing these $5 spins on high limit Dragon Link mat. So what happened? But I think that's one way you can manage it, right? Like really a lot of these tips are about keeping an eye on things and sort of keeping a little bit of track, because it's very easy to kind of get alert into the spins and the bonuses, and you're not necessarily looking down at that total every so often. Whereas if you put $20 in, you're hearing that beep that you're out of money, what just happened, right? So that's what that tip's all about.
Well, I guess you could also make the analogy that it's similar to table games, where they make you convert your money into chips, because when you're betting chips out there, you don't really associate it with cash. If you had to keep bringing out these bills all the time and see the cash there, you might be more aware of how you're doing and be in better control. But I guess it's a similar situation where you're not feeding 20s. You should use cash, so you're aware how much you're feeding into the machine. In a similar situation like chips at the table, where they exchange it for your cash.
Yeah, it feels really different in your hands when you're holding a ticket for $300 versus holding a stack of $20 bills, doesn't it? And so you kind of react a little bit differently between the two. So I totally agree there. And now we're moving towards cashless gaming, which is even worse, because now you're not even putting a ticket in, you're just punching in your PIN and transferring money into the machine in these cases. So, it's just another step removed from the actual physical cash. So definitely something to keep in mind there too.
Okay. What do you have for number 5?
So play the highest denomination for your bankroll. And we've talked about this in previous videos as well, but it's definitely one way to reduce your losses, because as you look at that payback data that's on the American Casino Guidebook website, you'll see that regardless of market, traditionally a higher denomination over time pays back at a better level than a lower denomination. And each step is, maybe 1%, 0.5%, 2%, depending on the jump. But, each step is still a step forward in pretty much every case. And so, if you're $1 a spin player and you have the choice between a penny slot that's 80 cents a spin versus a 3/4 mechanical reel machine, that mechanical reel machine is probably going to pay you better over time. And so maybe, similar to what you're doing with megabucks, maybe if you're really a big fan of the penny player, you can put a certain percentage of your budget towards that because it's going to be a little bit harder to win. But maybe make sure you also put a little bit of your budget towards those higher denomination machines, so you have that that better opportunity over time to maximize your play.
Yeah, I saw someone the other day playing. It was a big giant quick hit machine, and it was a $10 maximum bet. And they're pounding away at $10. I'm thinking, wow, it's a penny machine. I said, they could go play a dollar machine and they get a much better payback percentage than playing a penny machine at $10, because that penny machine is probably set to pay 85 to 88%. Dollar machine probably be closer to 91, 92%.
Right. And that's a big difference over time. Even though it takes, a certain amount of time to get to those averages, a 6% difference, if you're going from like 85 to 91, you're talking about, a third less losses over time or more. That's a pretty significant amount. And if you're at 92, now you're talking about halving your losses, right? So that's a pretty significant amount that you can save over the course of time playing those games.
So that's something that people should think about. If you can afford to play a higher denomination, you don't want to increase your, you don't want to overbet, which I think is number 6.
It is. They're related. Yep.
So we're going to, yeah. So if you can afford it, go to the higher denomination machine. So yeah, let's move on to number 6, which is tied into here. So,
exactly. Yeah. I put these two together purposely because they're kind of two halves of the coin in my mind. So the thing you don't want to do is overbet against your bankroll. So if you're going to a casino with $200 and you walk into the high limit room and start betting $10 a spin, that could be a very quick visit to the casino. By comparison, if you're going to the casino with $200, you're betting 50 or 75 cents a spin, you have a lot more runway, a lot more chances, a lot more wagers against, get on that slot machine to be able to have a chance to get a bonus or a big line hit or, a jackpot, whatever the case may be. So, understanding how much you're bringing to the casino is one thing. Making sure that you're setting up a situation like, especially, I'm setting a 4-hour time limit. I'm bringing a $200 budget, and I'm going to do $20 spins. Well, that's probably not going to be a very successful casino visit, right? So you need to keep in mind what your goal is. If your goal is a few hours of entertainment, bet your bankroll like you want to stretch it out for a few hours, and you can adjust it over time, right? You can start with like a $1 bet, and if it's not working, lower it to 50 cents, or if it is working, you can adjust it upward if you're already halfway through your session. But you ultimately want to make sure you're betting based on what you can afford.
Okay, makes sense. All right, number 7, please.
So number 7 is something that I've seen some players do that I really think is smart. So let's say you do get ahead. Let's say you get to the casino and you brought $200, and the first machine you sat down, you won $100. So now you're at $300. One thing you can do is set aside some winnings. I like to, if I win early, I like to set aside the winnings and pretend like that didn't happen and go back to my original budget. So I once walked into a casino and was playing my free play, and I was on video poker and I got a royal flush. So I got $1,000 in quarters, which was wonderful. It's a free play win of that size is always glorious. But I only came to the casino with $300. And so what I decided was I would give myself an extra 100. And I would put away the rest. So my budget was now $400. If I lost $400, regardless of what it's in my wallet, I'm going to go home. And so that way I knew I was protecting a significant percentage of my win. Some people don't trust themselves with that. So they have things like winners banks or I forget, there's different companies that make these, but basically you can take the bills and you can put them in a locked box and you leave the key at home. And then, you have to bring that cash home with you. And so these devices can be helpful if you really truly want to lock it away and make sure that it can't be spent. But I think that it's a healthy practice sometimes to lock in a win, because it's very easy to just keep playing, and then you tip back into the loss section. And those are usually the most emotionally brutal ones, when you knew you could have walked away with some extra cash and then you chose not to because you kept playing. And some people beat themselves up for it. So you can use devices like that if you're one of those people to sort of help yourself and give yourself an opportunity to go home with money.
All right. Now, I've heard of those little safes, you call them, where the people put their money in there if they think they can't control themselves. But I've never known anyone to use it, and I've never seen it in the casino. Have you seen one in a casino?
Oh, I know a lot of players that use them. Yeah, in the
good.
slot community, they're pretty popular because slots are so easy to be so up and down with cash that players, when they get really ahead, I see a lot of them just do it because it's like a best practice. It's one of those things where, like, maybe I can be trusted, maybe I can't, but let me just put it in there and I know it's mine and it's safe.
Okay. All right, makes sense for some people. All right, so let's move on. Tip number 8.
So this one is speed. So when you're playing a slot machine, you can stop the reels. You know, it doesn't affect the outcome, but you can stop the reel so you can move on to the next wager faster. But doing those types of things simply introduces more wagers. And the more wagers you do with a house advantage on those wagers, the more likely you are over time to basically fill the casino's coffers, right? So so you can slow down your play. You don't have to spin as fast as it came to a stop. Let me start the next one. There are IGT machines in particular that have speed controls. You can slow down the speed of the reels. It is a thing that the reels have gotten faster on the newer machines compared to the older machines. So they're designed to get you to place that next bet faster. So you can counteract that by not placing it as quickly. And those obviously as you slow it down, that you're just simply putting less wagers against the risk of loss, and you'll lose less over time rather, because you're just simply making less wagers.
Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, you sometimes see people. I tell people, well, you know, you're there for entertainment. You're not in a race, so you know, take your time, relax, enjoy yourself. And the worst thing you do is you see those people sometimes, and we've all seen them in casinos. They're playing two machines at a time. And if you're playing two machines at a time, you're losing twice as much money. I mean, you may get lucky and win, but theoretically speaking, you know, the casino has a mathematical edge over you. And the faster you play, the more likely you are to lose more money. So yes, if you can slow down, we always say speed kills in a casino, because the faster you play, and it's the fastest game in the casino. I mean,
it's the fastest game, and it's also got among the highest house edges. Like, if you just do a quick comparison in your head, how many times can you spin that roulette ball per hour? Right? You can only do, because people got to place their wagers, they got to know more bets of, you know, how many hands of blackjack can be dealt an hour. Let's say 100. On a slot machine, you can do 500 bets per hour, right? So you're doing 5 times as many bets with a game that costs a lot more over time because the house edge is much higher. So yeah, you don't need to play that fast. Some people I know will sometimes favor machines that have longer bonuses, because the longer bonus is a window where they're not wagering on that game. So, you know, even that game selection can even be down to, I want to play games with more lengthy bonuses purposely, so I'm not wagering as much at any given time.
Yeah, so no matter what game it is you're playing in the casino, you want to play it slowly if possible. Now the because we've done articles, you know, the highest casino edge in a casino. And the worst bet in the casino is Keno. In a Keno lounge, the house edge statistic, and we put them in the book year after year, was around 27% on Keno. Now, that's not machine Keno. That's an alive Keno lounge. So that's the highest, 27%. So that's the bad part. But the good part is, you know, they only draw the numbers about once every 5 minutes or so. So, you know, you can bet $1, your average loss is going to be 27 cents. But you're not going to be playing the game very fast. So you have to keep that in mind. You know, if you were a slot player in that 5 minutes, you'd be hitting that button an awful lot. So again, keep in mind, people, speed kills, and try and play in slots slowly, but also any other casino game you're going to play. Try and play it a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where finding a full table versus an empty table can be good advice, because you have to there's more people that are placing wagers and interacting, so that slows it down. A full craps table is always going to be much slower than an empty craps table. You know, even video Keno, it's got a lower house edge, but like, you have the speed button, it's and you're done. You know, you can wager much faster on that. And so even though your odds are overall better, they're just getting more chances to win against you because you're placing so many more wagers.
And one other thing you were mentioning here, try and play at a full table in say, if you're going to play blackjack, which is something that we always told people, because again, you will lose less over time. But when they rate you for comps, if they rate your play at the blackjack table, they're not going to. They usually do not rate you based on, you know, how many people are at the table. So if you're there and it's you against the dealer, you're going to be playing a lot of hands real fast. But if you're there at, you know, there's 6 people at the table, then you're playing a very slow game, and you would earn more comps for the same amount of play. You'd earn more comps. So that's one trick that we tell people. Okay, so number 9. This was the last one on 9 tips to lose less on slot machines. What's the last one?
So this is kind of a pool your play example. So instead of taking all of your money, go with a friend and play together. So Some people do group pulls where they'll pool like $20 a person and play together, but like that whole session could be an hour and you only put $20 in for that hour of play. It could be, husband and wife playing together, but working together at a single machine instead of playing separately on their own. And again, this is slowing down play because you're concentrating play on a single machine and pooling your money together as opposed to playing separate machines, which is just a different version of two machines at once. But what it does is aside from being a fun way to socialize and enjoy the wins together and the bonuses together and that kind of thing, it does slow down your play because you're not wagering 100% of your money on every single spin of that button. So that can be a great easy way to slow down play just by playing with someone else. And I've actually found as I've become more social in the casinos and gone to casinos with friends as opposed to going by myself, I tend to spend less, in part because of that, because I'm socializing with people. By the way, socializing is a great way to slow down things in general, because you're chit-chatting instead of spinning all the time. And so, it's just another way to mix play and socialization in a way that slows down your overall losses.
Yeah, a lot of times when I would do it with friends, or when Matt and I go to the casino, usually rather than us playing two separate machines, we'll go partners and say, okay, I'll watch you for a while and I'll root for you and know if you win, I win. So that's great. Or I've also done it with friends. But one thing you have to be careful of is you have to be able to trust that friend. Because there's the casino near us, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in South Florida and Hollywood. There was a situation where a gentleman was there playing with a lady friend of his, and he was playing a high-limit slot machine. She hit the button. It was his card and his money. She hit the button, and the casino said, well, we have to pay. And then there was a dispute about who was going to get paid for it. The casino said, well, we have to pay the person who hit the button. So just make sure that if you get into an arrangement like this, that the person you are playing with, you can trust them, and that the money will be shared equally.
Absolutely. One thing I've also found that can be a positive is sometimes, like, if I've gone to a new casino with a couple of friends and a couple of friends of mine and say, well, we're not going to come back here anytime soon, so let's pool all the play onto your card since you will be coming back, for instance. And so there's also the benefit of also having all of that play concentrated on a card if you choose to do that, which can lead to better offers. And we've talked about how to get better comps previously on the channel here. So that there's some other benefits to pooling play as well, if you're aiming for that.
All right, that's very good. Makes sense. Now, so we got your 9 tips, and I wanted to add one more. We're going to add a bonus tip here, number 10, and that is don't play slot machines. Switch from slot, and this is the best advice I give people all the time. I said switch from slot machines to video poker, because video poker is a much better game to play. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one is the payback is higher. The average paybacks, because you're not going to find penny video poker, but you'll find quarter video poker. So usually it's not too hard to find a 98, 97%. Even, well, if you go to Las Vegas, you can find 99.6% video poker. But in most casinos around the country, it's not going to be that good. But it's not hard to find 98, 97% quarter games. So if you played a penny slot machine or even a quarter slot machine, it's around 88, 90%. So you're getting a much higher payback percentage on video poker. The other thing about video poker is you can tell when a machine is programmed to pay back. There are ways to learn to read the pay tables. There's standard pay tables. You can learn how to look for those pay tables. If you and I were to go in a casino, I could take you around and I'd say, okay, and you will find some machines that this machine will be 98%, and this one over here is 96% in the same casino, sometimes in the same row. So you can learn how to read these pay tables and learn how to find the best paying machines in any casino. And the third thing is video poker. With the slot machine, it's all luck. You push the button and you hope you win. There's really nothing you can do to increase your chances of winning. But with video poker, it's a game of skill. There's an element of skill. So it's skill and luck. And if you can learn to play your hands properly, you will do better than someone who sits there and guesses how to play their hands. So you can do better than people that don't know how to play. So you can achieve the maximum payback percentage on that. So that's the game. That's our favorite game. Matt and I play that game all the time. We love video poker. And they do have some variations, to make it more interesting. They have multiplay, they have bonus games. So that is our tip. So I added that one in. And The best
if
tip?
I may.
Sure. Oh, yes, please.
So I'm a video poker player as well. Although I do write about slots a lot and I do play slots a lot, I am a video poker fan. It's actually the first game I learned before really getting into slots. So I'm with you on that. But two things I would say. One, you got to know how to play it enough to make it viable, right? So if you're playing it without knowing how to play it, you're going to potentially put yourself at risk of losing more than if you were playing a slot, because you're playing so poorly that you're not maximizing the payout that you can get on the game. Because it's built with a deck of cards in mind, there's only so many combinations of cards. So other much more smart people than myself have already written guides on how to know how to play a given hand. So if you learn those basics, and there's what they call, it's just like blackjack, there's a basic strategy and then there's a perfect strategy, and usually basic strategy is more than enough to get you close enough to that payback to be reasonable. And on a game like Jacks Are Better, which is going to be my other advice, it tends to be simpler. And so Jacks Are Better is a lower volatility video poker game. It is a simpler sort of logic to follow and understand. So it's easier to learn how to play. A lot of the decisions are pretty obvious. And so I would say if you're going to be learning video poker for the first time as part of you trying to improve your overall payback, learn Jacks Are Better first. You can then extend it past and learn some of the other different games, because there are not just different variations of like the multipliers and all that, but there's also different variations of the game itself. Deuce is Wild, double bonus, all those different types of games. But starting with Jacks Are Better is great because it's a simple one. The pay table is very clean and easy to understand. It's easy to understand how to tell what it pays back, and it's pretty easy to learn. And so I think if you're a slot player and trying to kind of dip your toe in, that's a great place to start. And one final bonus tip: they're videopoker.com, which Steve and Matt do different things on, and you can see that on their website as well. They have an app that's available for free called Best Hold. It'll let you punch in the 5 cards, and it'll tell you based on you can set the pay table in the game. It'll tell you which cards you should hold. So mathematically, this is the best play. So if you're still learning, you can have that app with you in the casino. They don't care if you're at a machine and looking at an app. They only care if you're at a table looking at your phone. So you can look at that and get yourself a little help if you're stuck.
I was not aware of that app. Let me tell people though, at our website, we still have our website, AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com. We have a section there called How to Play Video Poker. There's lots of articles. There's strategy charts. You can download them for free. You can download a list of pay tables so you know what to look for in the casino. And again, at AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com, How to Play Video Poker. Josh, it's always great to speak with you. You're an expert on slot machines. We thank you very much for your input. If people want to learn more about you, where would they do that?
You can visit knowyourslots.com, where I have a new article or updated article content every single day. I also have social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Know Your Slots, all one word.
All right, Josh O'Connell, thanks very much for spending time with us today.
My pleasure.